Hello and welcome to Daily Records. I am Tommy Burton, and today's daily record, as we continue on exploring the Byrds and solo Byrds, we're going to talk about what might have been. This is the McGuinn, Clark, and Hillman project. Now that would be Roger McGuinn, Gene Clark, and Chris Hillman, all original members of the Byrds. Terrible album cover here. Featuring, I mean, the photo itself would probably be fine, but you've got this weird tab on the side, basically touting the album. It's not a hype sticker. And then, of course, the back cover is another picture of all of them. Gene Clark looking really cool in his leather jacket. Roger McGuinn in his cowboy shirt. And, of course, Chris Hillman in his lovely-looking shirt. And so, for founding members of the Byrds, this album came out in 1979 and on Capitol Records. And, you know, for founding members of the Byrds, you kind of would expect a little bit more. This isn't the Byrds reunion that you would have hoped that it would have been. It's just not a great album. It's not very Byrd sounding, not the jingle jangle folk thing, and I think they consciously did that. They were like, you know what, we're just going to make a record that doesn't sound like the Byrds at all. It was more mainstream, sort of pop rock, and it had, you know, some folk elements, but for the most part, it just, you know, wasn't. It was more of a '70s type album. There's a song on here, "Release Me Girl." Practically a disco arrangement. Really, very left field for a band like this. They also used a lot of extra voices, and it wasn't that sort of trademark Byrds harmony that you would have expected. McGuinn, who was sort of the leader of the original Byrds, really took a back seat in this group, but he had just really a couple of songs. One of them was actually a top 40 hit, though, "Don't You Write Her Off," which may be the only song on this album that people really know, and probably the only one worth talking about. Chris Hillman kind of took over. He took about 3 songs on here, and of course Gene Clark had 4 songs. Clark was always you know, a songwriter, I think, first and foremost. But between he and Hillman, they took most of the lead vocals. And I think if I were to compare this to another album of the time, I would say it's more like the Eagles than it is. And it's funny because the Eagles were sort of the heir apparent to the Byrd sound in the early 70s. There's a Chris Hillman song on here, "Sad Boy." If I played it for you, you probably would think that it was a Glenn Frey song. So it's interesting. I don't know if that was a sort of purposeful thing, or if that's just what they were doing. But it just like I said, with the exception of the one hit, "Don't You Write Her Off," it's largely forgettable. And I guess, you know, the Eagles were a popular band, so they sold a lot of records. So maybe they were going for that sound. Just romantic type songs, but just did not even have not nearly the quality of even those guys. And so I don't want to get into a debate on the Eagles and the worthiness of all that, but I will say, you know, this album doesn't quite live up to the hype that it promises, especially with these 3. You would think it would be a much better album. But disagree with me. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Let me know what you think down below. Follow the contest, the Mr. Tambourine video in this series, as well as on my main channel. I go over what I'm looking for in the contest, open till June 15th. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter. It's TommyBurton75. And in the meantime, I will see you all again tomorrow with another Daily Record.